Welcome to True Crime Case Files, where we delve into the darkest corners of humanity to uncover the truth behind the headlines. Today's episode is a chilling exploration of a case that has baffled investigators and haunted a community. Join us as we piece together the tragic events that occurred in Sandy, Utah, in the summer of 2002. In the quiet suburban sprawl of Sandy, Utah, where the Wasatch Mountains cast long shadows as the sun sets, lived 42-year-old Karen Robinson, a figure of maternal warmth and community respect. A housewife by occupation, Karen's presence was a constant in the lives of her 6 children and her husband, Dr. Dennis Robinson, a local orthodontist. The Robinsons were fixtures in their community, often seen at events at the Southtown Center, where the children's laughter mingled with the summer concert series that July of 2002. Karen, born and raised in the Salt Lake Valley, had pursued her education fervently, earning a degree in English from the University of Utah. Though her youthful dreams of writing had given way to the demands of a bustling household, her love for literature never waned, often volunteering at the Sandy Library to share her passion with others. Her life was a testament to the adage that one's home is one's castle, and she was its undisputed queen. The Robinson home, a 2-story colonial nestled on a well-manicured street, was a hive of activity, with Karen at its heart. In the days leading up to her untimely death, she was engrossed in the minutiae of party planning as her youngest daughter's birthday approached. Her days were punctuated by trips to the local Walmart for supplies, her evenings spent poring over recipes and decorations ideas clipped from the pages of Good Housekeeping. Family relationships, though generally strong, bore the typical strains of any household. Karen's rapport with her husband was one of mutual respect and shared goals, while her interactions with her children, particularly the teenagers, were a delicate dance of boundaries and understanding. As the summer of 2002 hummed with the normalcy of life, with the Winter Olympics still fresh in the town's collective memory and the echoes of the Salt Lake City bombings a distant murmur, no one could have predicted the tragedy that would soon unfold. On the morning of July 23, 2002, the tranquility of Sandy, Utah, was shattered. The day broke with the clarity of a typical summer morning. The sky was a canvas of unblemished blue, and the air was still, the temperature already hinting at the heat to come. It was a Tuesday, and the Robinson household, a fixture in the quiet community, was stirring to life. At approximately 6:30 a.m., a scream echoed through the corridors of the Robinson home, a colonial-style residence that stood as a testament to the family's comfortable middle-class life. 17-year-old Eli Robinson, the eldest son still living under his parents' roof, had made a grisly discovery. In the serenity of the family's bathroom, his mother, Karen Robinson, lay lifeless in the bathtub. The scene was one of inconceivable horror. Her head had been brutally beaten, and the murder weapon, a common household hammer, lay discarded by the porcelain. Eli, his mind grappling with the surreal and macabre tableau before him, managed to dial 911. His voice, when he spoke to the dispatcher, was a strained whisper of composure, belying the turmoil that gripped him. The operator, trained for emergencies, dispatched the authorities with efficiency, the gravity of the situation evident in the urgency of their response. The news of the discovery spread quickly, rippling through the community like a stone cast into a still pond. Neighbors whispered in hushed tones, and local media, including the Deseret News, picked up the story, the headline casting a shadow over the city's recent peaceful summer events, such as the Sandy Arts Guild's production of The Sound of Music, which had brought smiles just weeks before. The police arrived swiftly, their vehicles disrupting the suburban calm as they cordoned off the scene. The body was transported to the state medical examiner's office, where the grim task of determining the cause of death awaited. Karen Robinson, beloved mother and community member, had met an end as violent as it was mysterious, leaving behind a family in mourning and a neighborhood grappling with the reality that evil had visited their doorstep. On July 23, 2002, Sandy, Utah, a town typically known for its tranquil suburban life, was rocked by a grisly discovery. At 7:30 a.m., the first rays of sunlight cast an eerie glow on the Robinson residence, where inside, a scene of horror awaited the first responders. Detectives Sarah Rollinghurst and Garrett Jensen, veterans of the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, arrived promptly, their years of experience on the force ill-preparing them for the brutality they were about to witness. The family's bathroom, once a sanctuary of privacy and comfort, was now a canvas of violence. Karen Robinson, a mother of 6 and a fixture in the local PDA, lay deceased in the bathtub. Her life had been brutally taken, evidenced by the multiple head wounds inflicted by a claw hammer, which was found lying next to the tub, its metal head smeared with blood, a stark contrast to the otherwise pristine white tiles. The scene, reminiscent of the shocking domestic disturbances often reported on the nightly news, was a stark reminder of the potential darkness dwelling within the human heart. As the morning news cycle began, with anchors on KSL TV reporting on the Salt Lake City mayoral race, detectives Rollinghurst and Jensen cordoned off the crime scene. They meticulously collected evidence, dusting for fingerprints that might betray a visitor's presence, and gathering DNA samples that could whisper secrets about the assailant. Every detail was scrutinized, from the brand of the hammer, a common craftsman found in many American homes, to the pattern of the blood splatters, which would later be analyzed by forensic experts at the Utah State Crime Lab. The detectives questioned the household, noting the distraught family members and their every reaction. They canvassed the neighborhood, where American flags still fluttered on porches from the recent Independence Day celebrations, seeking any clue that might have been overlooked in the early morning chaos. As the sun climbed higher, the reality of the situation sank in. Karen Robinson's life had been cut short in a most brutal fashion, leaving a community to grapple with the fragility of safety and trust. The investigation was only beginning, and the search for truth promised to be as painstaking as it was necessary. In the wake of the brutal homicide of Karen Robinson, focus swiftly shifted to her husband, Dr. Dennis Robinson, a 45-year-old orthodontist with a practice that drew patients from all over Salt Lake County. Dr. Robinson, known for his affable nature and community involvement, including sponsorship of local Little League teams, found himself at the center of a perplexing murder investigation in the summer of 2002. During the early stages of the investigation, while the media was abuzz with news of corporate scandals like WorldCom, Dr. Robinson's professional demeanor remained unshaken. He cooperated fully with detectives Sarah Rollinghurst and Garrett Jensen, offering an alibi that he had been asleep at the time his wife was brutally attacked. His claim, however, was overshadowed by the intrigue of his admission to a history of sleepwalking, an unusual defense that garnered skepticism among law enforcement. The interrogation, conducted in the sterile rooms of the Sandy Police Department, was recorded in meticulous detail, capturing Dr. Robinson's every word and gesture. His narrative was punctuated by references to his professional aspirations, which included a yearning to transition from his dental practice to academia, potentially taking up a faculty position at a prestigious institution like the University of Utah School of Dentistry. The absence of a clear motive confounded investigators. The couple's financial records, including recent transactions from their joint Wells Fargo account, showed no signs of significant distress. Colleagues and friends painted a picture of a man who was living the American dream, driving his family in a Ford Expedition to church on Sundays and taking annual vacations to national parks like nearby Zion. Despite the veneer of normalcy, the evidence began to mount against Dr. Robinson. The murder weapon, a hammer from his own toolbox, bore only his fingerprints, and no signs of forced entry suggested an intruder. As the investigation progressed, the question loomed: could a respected community figure be capable of such a heinous act? The investigation into Karen Robinson's murder turned to Eli Robinson, the eldest of the 6 Robinson children still residing in the family's Sandy, Utah home. A 17-year-old high school student with a penchant for mathematics and a future in engineering, Eli's relationship with his mother, while typically loving, had recently been strained by the usual tumult of teenage rebellion. In July of 2002, as families gathered around televisions to watch American Idol's inaugural season, Eli faced intense scrutiny from detectives Rollinghurst and Jensen. The Robinson home, a symbol of middle-class stability with its 2-car garage and well-manicured lawn, became the focal point of the investigation. During his interrogation at the Sandy Police Department, Eli's reactions were a cocktail of adolescent angst and genuine bewilderment. His body language, an amalgam of defensive postures and fleeting eye contact, suggested a mix of emotions. He vehemently denied any involvement in his mother's death, his voice rising above the hum of the department's fluorescent lights. The detectives probed for a confession, questioning whether a heated argument might have escalated into violence, a narrative that seemed plausible given the absence of any signs of forced entry or robbery. The police delved into Eli's recent activities, examining receipts from his outings to the local Cinemark theaters and scrutinizing his text messages for any indication of motive or malice. His internet presence, a digital footprint common among teenagers of the time, was also dissected for clues. However, the digital trail provided no direct link to the crime. The family dynamic was put under the microscope, with investigators questioning siblings and neighbors about Eli's behavior. Was the tension between Eli and his mother merely the growing pains of adolescence, or was there a darker undercurrent to their relationship? As the case unfolded, the community watched with bated breath, wondering if the killer could be a son who walked the same high school hallways as their own children. As the scorching Utah summer progressed, a pivotal development emerged in the investigation of Karen Robinson's murder. On August 5th, as the public's attention was diverted by the buzz around the upcoming release of the movie Signs, a neighbor's testimony breathed new life into the case. The neighbor reported to authorities a sighting of an indistinct figure lurking in the vicinity of the Robinson household on the night of the murder. This account prompted detectives to secure and review surveillance footage from the area, notably from the security systems recently installed in response to a local initiative to reduce property crime. Analysts scoured through hours of grainy footage, searching for the anomaly reported by the neighbor. Their efforts were rewarded when they identified an individual bearing a striking resemblance to Dr. Dennis Robinson in stature and gait, entering the Robinson home in the dead of night. This revelation cast a shadow of doubt over Dr. Robinson's initial assertion that he had been asleep at the time of his wife's murder. The discovery of the footage coincided with the release of the latest summer blockbuster, creating a stark contrast between Hollywood fiction and the unfolding real-life drama. The time-stamped images from the security tapes became a silent witness to the events of that fateful night, challenging Dr. Robinson's narrative and complicating his defense. Detectives Rollinghurst and Jensen re-examined the alibi presented by Dr. Robinson, juxtaposing it against his known sleepwalking episodes, a detail that had previously garnered only mild interest. With the advent of this new evidence, the case took on a new direction, steering the investigation back towards the orthodontist whose life, on the surface, mirrored the successful American dream portrayed in television commercials for products like the latest Ford SUV. As the summer heat blazed on, the case that had once seemed to be cooling off was now reignited, with the potential to burn through the facade of normalcy that Dr. Dennis Robinson had so meticulously maintained. The investigation into Karen Robinson's murder expanded beyond the immediate family when detectives turned their attention to Gregory Lacoste, a 25-year-old mechanic with aspirations of owning his own auto shop. Greg, who was romantically involved with Karen's 16-year-old daughter, Giselle, found himself under scrutiny due to the secretive nature of their relationship and the significant age gap between them. Gregory's connection to the Robinson family added a layer of complexity to the case. His interactions with Karen had been fraught with tension, as she was reportedly uncomfortable with the relationship he had with her daughter. This discomfort had been documented in Karen's personal journal, a detail that emerged during the investigation and was reminiscent of storylines from popular daytime dramas like Days of Our Lives. During questioning, Gregory maintained a composed exterior. His alibi for the night of the murder was scrutinized but ultimately deemed unconvincing, as he claimed to have been at a local bar, the name of which he struggled to recall. The bar's lack of surveillance footage from that evening left investigators unable to corroborate his story. Despite the circumstantial nature of his connection to the crime, no physical evidence could firmly place Gregory at the scene. His hands bore no traces of the Craftsman hammer's residue, nor did his clothing match any fibers found in the Robinson home. His truck, a well-used Chevrolet Silverado, was thoroughly examined, but no incriminating evidence was uncovered. The investigation into Gregory Lacoste's potential involvement in the crime was exhaustive. Detectives sifted through his financial records, noting transactions from the local Napa Auto Parts store but finding nothing that tied him to any criminal activity. His phone records were similarly unilluminating. As the summer of 2002 waned, the case against Gregory remained circumstantial at best. Without direct evidence linking him to the crime, the shadow of suspicion would eventually shift, leaving detectives to consider other possible leads in the tragic and unresolved murder of Karen Robinson. As the summer of 2002 waned, the Sandy Police Department made a decisive turn in the Karen Robinson homicide case. The investigation, which had initially cast a wide net, began to narrow its focus, converging on a suspect who had been in the spotlight from the beginning, Dr. Dennis Robinson. The evidence against the well-regarded orthodontist was circumstantial but compelling. The Craftsman hammer, a common household tool that had become the instrument of Karen's demise, was traced back to the Robinson family's garage. Forensic analysis confirmed that the bloodstains on the hammer matched Karen's DNA, and crucially, Dr. Robinson's fingerprints were the only ones found on the handle. Detectives Rollinghurst and Jensen, with decades of investigative experience between them, were methodical in their approach. They meticulously charted Dr. Robinson's movements and cross-referenced his statements with the newfound security footage, which contradicted his claim of being asleep throughout the night. The footage, a silent sentinel, captured an individual resembling Dr. Robinson's build entering the family home at a time when he purported to be in bed. The community of Sandy, a suburb where residents prided themselves on tight-knit relationships and where local businesses like the Sandy Village Florist were community staples, struggled to reconcile the image of Dr. Robinson as a murderer. His persona as a family man, seen driving his children in the family's Ford Expedition to soccer practices and school events, clashed with the emerging narrative of a man capable of violence. In the end, it was the aggregation of evidence, rather than a single damning piece, that led to Dr. Robinson's arrest. The case, which had become a topic of hushed conversations in the aisles of the local Smith's grocery store, reached a turning point. Despite the lack of an overt motive, the weight of the forensic evidence was undeniable, and Dr. Dennis Robinson was formally charged with the murder of his wife. The serene suburban calm of Sandy, Utah, was irrevocably shattered on September 10, 2002, when local orthodontist Dr. Dennis Robinson was arrested in connection with the brutal murder of his wife, Karen Robinson. The arrest, executed with quiet efficiency by the Sandy City Police Department, marked a dramatic turn in a case that had gripped the community since the discovery of Karen's body on July 23. Dr. Robinson, a 45-year-old father of 6, was taken into custody at his dental practice, a place where he had built a reputation for his gentle touch and affable nature. The news rippled through the town and across media, with outlets like the Salt Lake Tribune quickly picking up the story, contrasting images of a family man against the heinous nature of the crime. The community, which had been following the case through meticulous reports in the Deseret News, now faced the grim reality that the suspected killer was one of their own. The evidence against Dr. Robinson had mounted steadily. Forensic analysis revealed his fingerprints were the sole set on the hammer found at the crime scene, a tool traced back to a recent purchase at the local Home Depot. This, combined with security footage obtained from a neighbor's camera, which contradicted his alibi of being asleep at the time of the murder, painted a damning picture. The footage, timestamped during the early morning hours, showed a figure matching Dr. Robinson's build entering the family home. Despite the absence of a clear motive, the case against Dr. Robinson was bolstered by his own inconsistent statements in the sleepwalking defense, which was met with skepticism by investigators and the public alike. The arrest, while bringing a measure of relief to those demanding justice for Karen, also cast a pall of mourning over the community as they grappled with the dual loss of a beloved mother and the potential downfall of a once respected professional. As Dr. Robinson was escorted from his practice in handcuffs, the image was broadcast on television screens. Sandy, Utah, and the Robinson family would never be the same again. In October of 2002, as the nation's attention intermittently shifted between the aftermath of the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics and the burgeoning threat of conflict in Iraq, a different kind of drama was unfolding in the courtroom of Sandy, Utah. Dr. Dennis Robinson, a prominent local orthodontist, stood trial for the murder of his wife, Karen Robinson, in a case that had sent shockwaves through the quiet suburban community. The prosecution, led by the formidable Laura Phelps, presented a compelling narrative, woven through with forensic evidence that placed Dr. Robinson at the center of the crime. The hammer, a common household tool turned murder weapon, was purchased from a local Home Depot, its handle imprinted with the accused fingerprints. Phelps pointed to the chilling security footage, aired on networks like Fox News, which captured a figure resembling Dr. Robinson entering the family home in the early hours of the morning, directly contradicting his claims of being asleep. In a strategic move, the defense, headed by the astute Michael Evers, shifted the focus to the absence of a clear motive in the defendant's previously unblemished reputation. Evers argued that the prosecution's case was circumstantial, emphasizing the lack of direct evidence tying Dr. Robinson to the act of murder itself. He painted his client as a loving father and husband, a respected member of the community who had sponsored local Little League teams and was a fixture at church fundraisers. The trial proceedings were punctuated by emotional testimonies from the Robinson children, which were covered with sensitivity by local media outlets like KSLTV. The family's private turmoil became public spectacle, resonating with viewers who had followed the case since the initial reports interrupted their regular programming. As the trial drew to a close, the jury, tasked with sifting through the evidence and testimonies, faced the daunting responsibility of delivering a verdict on a case that had captured the attention of a nation still reeling from recent events. The community of Sandy held its breath, awaiting a resolution to a tragedy that had exposed the fragility of the American dream. On a tense October morning in 2002, the Salt Lake County Courthouse was the focal point of national attention as the trial of Dr. Dennis Robinson reached its climax. The jury, after days of deliberation that had the community of Sandy, Utah, on edge, delivered their verdict. Dr. Robinson, the man who had become a fixture in local newspapers and evening broadcasts, was found guilty of the murder of his wife, Karen Robinson. The courtroom, where every seat was filled with residents and reporters alike, fell into a heavy silence as the verdict was read. The trial had been a local sensation, with the Salt Lake Tribune providing daily coverage that often overshadowed other news. The guilty verdict seemed to resonate with the gravity of an era that was already marked by uncertainty and a search for justice. In the days leading up to the sentencing, media speculation was rampant. Local radio stations speculated on the potential outcomes, with pundits weighing in on the case's impact on the community's psyche. The sentence, when it was finally handed down, was 25 years in prison. Some saw it as a lenient punishment for a crime of such brutality, while others felt it was a just consequence for a man whose life had, until that point, been devoid of criminal behavior. The Robinson family, who had become reluctant public figures, were present for the sentencing. Their reactions were a poignant mixture of relief and profound grief, a sentiment echoed in the somber tone of the KUTV news anchors as they reported the outcome. The family, much like the rest of the nation, was grappling with a post-9/11 reality where security and trust had been deeply shaken. As Dr. Robinson was led away, the community of Sandy was left to ponder the duality of a man who had been both a trusted neighbor and a convicted murderer. The case, with its twists and turns, would remain etched in the collective memory of the town and serve as a cautionary tale about the hidden depths of human nature. The conclusion of Dr. Dennis Robinson's trial in July 2002 marked the beginning of a new chapter for the Robinson family and the community of Sandy, Utah. The once idyllic suburb was now a focal point for a media landscape which had followed the case with intense interest, often comparing the domestic tragedy to the plot lines of popular crime dramas like Law and Order. In the aftermath of the trial, the Robinson children faced the daunting task of reconstructing their lives amidst the wreckage of their shattered family. The family's struggle to find normalcy was mirrored in the broader American narrative of the time, as the country grappled with the aftermath of the September 11th attacks and the looming threat of war in Iraq. The Robinsons' personal loss became a symbol of the nation's collective quest for healing and understanding in uncertain times. Detectives Rollinghurst and Jensen, who had become local heroes for their work on the case, continued their law enforcement careers, but the echoes of the Robinson case lingered in their professional and personal lives. The investigation had taken a toll, as seen in the weary expressions they wore during press conferences, which were often aired on the local evening news. Gregory Lacoste, once a peripheral figure in the drama, moved away from Sandy, leaving behind the memories and the media speculation about his involvement in the case. His departure was a quiet footnote in the story, one that had been followed by viewers who had seen it unfold on their television screens. As the Robinson children moved forward, the community of Sandy did as well, the case leaving an indelible mark on the town's history. The legacy of Karen Robinson's tragic end would continue to serve as a haunting reminder of the complexities and fragility of suburban life. Hey, true crime case solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, true crime case solvers.